Welcome to Drummers Review. I'm Nolly, and today we're going to be taking a look at a DW Collector's Pure Purpleheart shell pack. DW Collector's series drums are some of the most prized premium kits out there, and these days they regularly release exotic timbre variations of their shells to show off the unique aesthetics and tonal variations. Having had a lot of success using Purpleheart for snare drums, the next logical step for DW is to try it on a full kit, which has led to the introduction of the Pure Purpleheart kit that we have here today. This shell pack consists of a 22 by 18 inch bass drum, 10 by 8 and 12 by 9 inch rack toms, 16 by 14 inch floor tom, and a 14 by 6.5 inch snare drum. Looking around at online retailers, it seems that a shell pack like this would set you back about £4,000 without the snare drum, which would then cost you about £850 more. But before we go any further, let's check out a few more sound clips before we come back with our thoughts. Initial impressions were a little bit split amongst our team during review. Some really liked the gloss finish, while others felt that a matte finish might be a little bit more suitable to show off the wood grain. We did all agree though that when the light catches the finish just right, it looks awesome, almost regal in a way. Picking the shells up, we noticed they're noticeably heavier than we found with other Collector's series drums, would definitely be on the heavier end of the scale amongst manufacturers in general. Moving on to the drum heads, DW uses all USA-made Remo heads with their own branding. They've recently changed over to double-ply heads on their tom batters, using the smooth white double AA model, over a more regular, clear single-ply resonant head. The snare has a single-ply coated batter head over a hazy snare side and 20-strand wires. The bass drum has a hybrid clear and coated single-ply batter head, paired with an unported single-ply resonant head, which does feature 6 little vents around the edge. Also, the bass drum does come shipped from the factory with 2 little muffling pillows to independently muffle each end of the drum. Moving on to sounds and starting with the bass drum, from the player's position you'd be forgiven for thinking you're playing a ported kick. The attack is absolutely ferocious and the note sustain is really short. It's got excellent low end projection, but it's quite focused. We found that if you stood out front, directly in front of the drum, you'd feel a healthy wallop, but move off a couple of feet in either direction and you'd be left with mostly beta attack. This focused nature turned out to be a bit of a theme. All 3 toms felt very attacky and bright from the player's perspective, but out in the room and through the microphones they were a lot fuller than we'd anticipated. As we've come to expect from DW Collector's drums, we loved how easily you could pull a really strong fundamental tone out of the toms. even with the softest hits. And at the other end of the spectrum, we found that they didn't choke even if you laid into them as hard as you possibly could. The snare was really in your face with a cracking rim shot and a clean, articulate character. It's a very modern sound and would suit players who are after a bright and loud snare drum with a lot of carry. We can see it going down a storm, for example, with contemporary gospel drummers. All in all, we felt like this kit offered two quite different sonic experiences to the player and the listener. It's an unusual statement, but we feel like this kit would be well suited to drummers who play in amplified situations or record regularly, want loud and warm drums, and are okay with the fact that they won't necessarily be experiencing the full range of sound while they're playing. With all that in mind, we can see why Purpleheart kits are becoming popular amongst some of the more heavy gigging, performing and recording artists on the DW roster. As one would hope for, these drums are exceptionally well built, although we did notice that one of the floor tom leg brackets needed to be tightened slightly to prevent it from wobbling. This is a tiny detail and it's only really notable because DW's QC is usually faultless. There's no way around the fact that this is a really expensive set of drums, and if you've got the buying power to be looking at them, you could probably take your pick from pretty much any top-of-the-line kit from any major manufacturer. With that said, there are some that will have their hearts well and truly set on owning a DW collectors, and for those people the big decision is probably going to be choosing which kind of shells they want. Looking at these drums, heavy hitters would be well catered to with the amount of dynamic range available, although they wouldn't necessarily be a primary choice in more aggressive music styles because the overall presentation is still quite warm. Likewise, if you're the kind of drummer that wants resonant and rounded tones from the playing position, even at soft dynamics, these might not be the right shells for you either. But the beauty of the fact that DW offers so many timbre and orientation options on their collector's shells is there's something there to suit everyone. And for studio drummers and those who play in mic live situations, Purpleheart might be just the ticket. We hope you've enjoyed watching this review, and we really would love to know your opinions on this kit, so please do leave us a comment. Don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to be notified of future content, and we look forward to seeing you next time on Drummers Review.